Vitaly Zorovatsky may be freed soon, according to certain rumors that have been circulating. We're going to be talking about today on The Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney living over here in Asia, and this is where we teach you to, once again, be your own judge. So this is an update that I was really debating whether or not to do, and I thought this is an excellent chance, a perfect chance to talk about not just Vitaly, but Vitaly will be the main topic, but about multicultural boundaries, which are reflected in the law, and how at the end of the day, the most important thing when it comes to people that cross those boundaries, that go across those lines, is to make things right with that culture and those people. So we're going to talk about that today on this Fast Facts version of my videos. Of course, Fast Facts are a quick and short, dirty version of all of the latest of legal news. If you enjoy this format, if you like these shorter videos, these brief videos, please make sure to smash the like button. And after you listen to the whole video, make sure to leave a comment below on what you think. I do read those comments, and I genuinely care about what you guys have to say about these issues and what you think of my takes on these issues. So let's jump right into it. Of course, as always, I have a lovely, lovely PowerPoint on the Vitaly update as of today, August 7th, 2025. So what's going on right now? Why am I giving this update? Well, right now, the status is he has been charged, or he was indicted on 3 charges of unjust vexation, 3 counts of unjust vexation. Now, in my previous videos, we've gone over what that is in terms of a criminal violation in the Philippines, which can carry some time and some criminal punishment. And he's still currently in the Philippines. He's still currently behind bars. He's not free to go as of yet. However, and I put many asterisks on this, there has been some unconfirmed speculation, some rumors that have not been confirmed by any official channels, that some witnesses may not testify in his trial and some charges may be dropped. Now, I want to say this over and over again. This is unofficial, and I did not want to report on this initially because typically I like to rely on official sources. I like to look at what is coming out from the government, the official news agencies. What do we know and what we don't know? What some random influencer, TikToker, YouTuber has to say might be speculation, it might be drama, it might not be true. We don't actually know what's going to go on. We don't actually know what's going to happen until we see some official statements, some comments that we can verify and back up. So while I am going to talk about this, I want you all, for the time being, to take it with a pinch of salt and really use it for a broader reflection on what's going on with Vitaly. But one of the reasons why I tried to look at this, and I thought about this really, really closely and deeply, was looking at the last photo of Vitaly, the photo that's actually the thumbnail photo today. Now, it is not a high quality photo, but if you look very closely, and once again, it's a grainy photo, but I spent some time looking at the photo and looking at the face of this man, Vitaly. And one question I have had, and one question I have with really all the content creators who come to Asia, particularly, or come anywhere, and they cross multicultural boundaries, which often ends up in violating the law, is, are they truly and deeply repentant for what they have done? Have they gotten to a point where they realize the folly in their actions and they are truly and deeply sorry about that, and they have made things right with that culture? And that's one thing I'm going to say over and over again. I am just a small legal YouTube content creator. My opinion is really, as much as I like to communicate and educate, and I enjoy it, and I understand multicultural boundaries because, number one, I live abroad and I've traveled to over 100 countries and understand their cultures very, very, very deeply, at least as deeply as I can with the best of my time and abilities. I am not the ultimate judge here. Right? It's not just be your own judge. It's the judge of those countries and of those people. And those people have to look at their justice systems, have to look at their culture and say, have we gotten to a point where we are okay that this person is rehabilitated? And when I look at the face of this man, I cannot tell. I am not sure one way or another. I'm not convinced one way or another. But I do open up the possibility that Vitaly may be on the road to rehabilitation, and there may be a possibility, my mind is open to the possibility that this man has realized the folly of his actions, is genuinely repentant, and may actually be on that road. It is possible. Once again, I'm not saying whether this is true or false. That may not be true or not true. I don't know. I don't have enough information. But I just look at that and I think about that. And we've talked about on this channel justice being served. We've talked about restorative versus retributive justice. And I explained to you guys a difference in those systems, right? Restorative, focusing on, making it right and restoring that person and the people harmed. Retributive, saying, hey, look, this is a systematic harm. There needs to be some sort of punishment. But both systems, they have commonalities. We focused in the past on the differences, but the commonalities in those systems are looking at the needs of the persons harmed. Which in this case is not just the needs of the individual, but because they're content creators, particularly Vitaly, it's the needs of the country, of the Filipino people, Filipinas, Filipinos, the whole country, all Pinoys, right? They all were indeed harmed by these actions. And that's something that I think, if you really think deeply about this, is at the root of the problem here. Once again, the laws are an enshrinement of the culture, which is a reflection of the people. And that's something that people need to really deeply understand. And the focus on both of the systems, whether retributive, restorative, whatever, and every country has their own balance of these systems, is on healing, support, and accountability. That's healing for the victims, support for those people that were harmed, and accountability with the person who was committing those violations, right? So in this case, Vitaly, right? So, has Vitaly been held accountable? Like, are we at that point? And it varies based on country and culture. It varies based on that culture, which is reflected in those local laws. And to be honest, and to be very frank with you guys, once again, I try to be as objective as possible, as fair as possible, as educational as possible, and to be objective, to be truly objective and put my personal feelings aside, everything else. It is difficult to judge as an outside observer. I'm not on the inside on this. I'm not one of the victims. I'm not a Filipino, a Filipino citizen. So it's difficult for me to judge that as an outside observer. And what we want to see is we want to see people get to their Shawshank moment. I've talked about this moment, right? If you've seen the Shawshank Redemption, it's the point at which Andy escapes from the prison and he's got the water washing over him. It's a catharsis. It's a healing. It's a, giving up the past and a moving in the future. And whether or not someone has reached this point is very difficult to tell as an outside observer looking at social media, because we cannot judge people's internal mental or emotional states. We do not have that capacity right now as human beings to do that. And because we cannot do that, we all have our conceptions of whether or not somebody is been, done their proper time or done their proper restoration or not. But I want to talk about this in a context, in a broader multicultural context, because I think it will make it more clear. So when I look at cultural boundaries, I look at people that are good and respectful of those boundaries and people that have crossed those boundaries clearly. And on this channel, one thing I, dedicate myself to is to when people cross these boundaries, particularly with the law, as someone who really deeply personally respects these boundaries. It hurts me. Genuinely, I feel it like inside of me because I know these boundaries. I live in a country full time. So when I see foreigners crossing these boundaries, whether it's here in Thailand, in Korea, in Japan, the Philippines, countries I lived in Korea, lived in Philippines. I've spent a lot of time in Japan. Of course, I live in Thailand. It hurts me. It genuinely hurts me to see people crossing these boundaries. When I see somebody doing this, that is a painful for me. And I know that I'm not even a citizen. I'm not even a national. So people that live in these countries are even more deeply hurt than I am. If I, with only my limited knowledge, feel this way, certainly people feel way worse than I do. People are far more harmed than I am with these particular boundaries that have been crossed. And there's also many expats over here, many people living abroad that feel the same way. They contact me all the time, send me emails, DMs, etc., and tell me, hey man, I'm right with you. I totally understand where you're coming from. I got it. And what I want to highlight is, a lot of times people call the good content creation non-tent. I've heard it all the time, non-tent, non-tent, non-tent. But there are massive content creators that make so much money and they are so profitable, so successful, and they don't cross those lines. Or if they do, they apologize. They make it right with the people in a real way, not a fake apology, in a real way, and they go back and they're accepted and they move on and they grow. So let me talk about that a little bit. So for example, Korean Englishman, that's a very good one. I learned that one when I was in Korea. So many Korean people love Korean Englishman. There's some foreigners that do great, wholesome content in Korea, very family friendly. And they're loved, right? And they're on that positive side. Then on the other side, you got Johnny Somali, who obviously, doesn't need to be said, has violated multiple cultural and legal boundaries in Korea. But, if you look at Korean Englishmen, they're not without their controversy. In fact, Korean Englishman, which is a very successful channel, I'll link all these positive channels. I'll link all the positive channels in the description below so you can check them all out, see their content, see that I'm not making this up. You can Google all this yourself. They crossed a line during COVID. During COVID, they violated Korean social norms by going out during quarantine, violating the quarantine procedures, which once again are Korean culture, the Korean law, right? I was in Korea during COVID. I followed all the rules during COVID. Did I like it? No. Did I object to it in my mind as an American? Did I say, wow, this is really, I don't like to do this? Yes. But with my actions, did I respect them? Yes, I did. Korean Englishmen, they did cross a line. They violated that, and they had a controversy over that. What did they do? Well, they didn't say, well, screw you, Korea. I don't need to know. I don't need to do anything for you. I'm not Korean. I can just do whatever I want to do. No, that's not what they did. What they did was they said, we are so sorry. And to make up for it, we are not just going to apologize, but we are going to go on hiatus. This channel has millions of followers. Going on hiatus is giving up so much money. They probably lost 6, maybe even 7 figures of revenue because they decided to go on hiatus due to this mess up. So they literally were saying, hey, we're going to sacrifice our money, our revenue, because we feel truly sorry. And now they're back at it. Now they're creating content. And once again, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. There is a way to come back. You've got Mark Vine over here in Thailand. Now, this guy's done almost nothing wrong. He's absolutely a good being, right? Who literally has never said anything negative in his life. Super positive, super successful channel, right? And then you've got on the other side, Ice Poseidon, right? Who clearly violated mores and laws in Thailand and was dealt with, appropriately by Thailand, right? So once again, you've got a bad and a good side. You can choose which side to be on. You've got John Daub, a guy I have a lot of respect for, only in Japan. And then you've got DBR, the kick streamer who threw a snowball and had to flee out of Japan because he had people pressing charges against him. Once again, two sides of the coin. You can choose to be the John Daub or be the DBR, right? You can choose to do the respectful thing to acknowledge that culture, go the other way. So let's get to Vitaly and Philippines. You've got Vitaly. Obviously, look, even his most valiant supporters, even the people that support Vitaly, I want you to listen to me. We can all acknowledge that he crossed a cultural boundary. He crossed boundaries that should not be crossed. And along with those cultural boundaries came laws that were indeed violated. And now at this point, he needs to ask himself, has he done what's right? Has he moved in the direction of people like my good friend Eric Cabrera, who is an absolutely great guy. He's a solid guy. He's a thoughtful guy. He loves the Philippines. He loves the locals. Is he moving to become more like Eric? And Eric, by the way, is the guy who confronted him, the guy who got up in his face. And a lot of people think that getting up in people's face or confronting people or calling people out is simply because you want clout, is simply because you want money or something else. That's not what it is. What it is we want to see people like me and Eric, we both want to see people make it right. And if people truly make it right, if they truly do the right thing, if they truly are accepted by the people as having corrected the problem, then I can say I am comfortable with that. And Eric, and I'm not going to speak fully for him, I'm sure that he would be of a similar mind to me. What we want to see is not you making it right for me. Once again, my opinion ultimately doesn't matter. it's the opinion of the Filipino people. So the question is, and my question to kind of round this out is, has Vitaly made it right with the Filipino people? Can he make it right for the Filipino people? That's the question. That's the challenge. I want to know what you guys think about that, and I'll catch you on the next one.